Just around the corner, someone's on the phone. Don't know what to say. Tell him no one's home. And my cat has got my tongue. Cause I heard it come outside. I'm waiting by the door. No place left to hide. Love is just around the corner. Someone's on the phone. Don't know what to say. Tell him no one's home. And my cat has got my tongue. Cause I don't have enough to make you face to face. Cause I'll never find the word to find a hiding place. Don't have the nerve to meet you face to face. Cause I'll never find the word to find a hiding place. I would dial your number and hang up the phone. I love you way too much to see that it's just a silly crush.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Hopefully everything's working right. Actually gonna send a message in chat just to make sure the chat bubbles are coming up. Okay, it looks like it popped up under the, here we go. That's better. Don't really like the, I'll just move this. Down a bit. Okay. Alright, looks good. Hi, Chills, how's it going? But anyways, I guess I'll just go ahead and get started. We can just go down the list. Hi Mick. It's kind of tier list time. But honestly, like, tier lists are fun to make and all. Like, I get the appeal, I've made plenty before. But they're not really useful for conveying information, I would say. So, this is going to be something that I hope will be a bit more useful to, I guess, just everyone in general, but specifically people who may be, like, unsure of weapon roles or, like, not confident in how to use them. Yes, I'm gonna have to shout out quickly that this format, like, I have made some edits, but it was, originally made by Mistwalker. Okay, I actually didn't put the link in here. But here, I'll just bring up their Twitter. But yeah, the original sheet is made by them for the first Salmon Run game. And that was basically what inspired this. Or using a very similar format. Because I think it's a very useful format. But so I've already done the I've already got all the like damage input for all the weapons, and I gave it like a rough star rating. I'll go into more depth on how I did the damage like ratings and all that, because it's not exactly gonna be just scaling with the DPS, because like DPS values are useful and all, but there's many different ways to interpret them. And like, for example, you can say, oh, Splattershot Jr. has a single target DPS of 336. So it's a better weapon than like Splat Charger for single target DPS. But that completely ignores that Chargers have piercing, of course. So it's like there's a lot of very different weapons in this game. So raw data is very useful, but it matters how you interpret it. And it's like looking at the raw numbers is only gonna give you so much information, I guess, is the point. But we can go more into that later. But for now, I guess I'll just start going down the weapon list and giving a star rating for each boss. Right now, I'm just doing bosses, and I'm not including every boss, just because I think for some bosses, there isn't really much that needs to be said. Like, obviously, Flyfish and Maws, you just use bombs. Like, there's some very specific weapons that have other ways of dealing with them, but it's not interesting enough to have a separate rating for every single weapon in the game. But yeah, enough about that. I'll start off with Sploosh. So, Sploosh is the weapon with, I would say, the best mobility in the game, or it's very high up there. So, typically, shooters with a high fire rate are going to be the most mobile weapons. It's also a light weapon, and Sploosh's high DPS means it's very good at surviving swarms of lessers and avoiding other bosses. So this makes it one of the best weapons to go out and reach stingers. It does have very short range, so obviously you are going to have to go all the way out to shore. You're not going to be picking off a stinger from like a safe location, but it's just different styles of dealing with the boss. So I don't think I'm gonna give it like a 5 stars, but I think like 4.5 is pretty reasonable, just because of like how mobile it is and how good it is at surviving on its own and dealing with enemies that are spawning. Now steelheads are a bit rough for Sploosh. It does have terrible range, so you're typically going to need to find a ledge or something higher up than the steelhead to make sure you can get the kill. If you can do that, then it's pretty guaranteed because Sploosh has great DPS. You can kill it with jump shots, but somewhat inconsistent due to the RNG, and it's not really reliable. And obviously, you're not going to be killing anything from far away from with the Sploosh, so it's still going to be 1 star just because like it can deal with steelheads in certain situations. I'll maybe give it like a half a more star. It's like somewhat subjective, but you get the general idea for the ranking. And I don't want to take too long on this, so I'll probably speed up later. But Sploosh is like the first shooter I'm doing, so I'll kind of like go over what makes shooters good in different contexts. But yeah, either 1 or like 1.5 stars, because like obviously the DPS is good, but you're going to have to get up close and high for the steelhead to actually kill it. So a lot of other weapons on the list are going to be able to deal with it easier. I'll probably knock it down to 1 for now, but we can change it later. So the reason I have Drizzler missiles and Drizzlers separate on the list is because some weapons are very good at knocking down Drizzler missiles, which is, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked things in the game. Like, it is extremely important to do, in my opinion. Because if you have a weapon that's good at it, it takes almost no time to do, and it can remove a ton of pressure from the team. So that's why I have these separate. But Sploosh is on it. Yeah. So for one of these, like these are going to be pretty different for Sploosh. Like Sploosh is great at knocking down missiles if you're close to the missile, but if you're not close to the missile, then it's pretty tough. So I think about 2 stars is reasonable. But as for actually killing the Drizzler, the DPS is great. I'm probably not going to give it 5 stars because there are some weapons that can deal with Drizzlers while they're jumping or camp their landing and kill them then. So those are the weapons I'm going to reserve 5 stars for. But I think 4 or 4.5 is pretty reasonable for the actual Drizzler itself. Now, fish sticks. Fish sticks are a very strange boss. Because there's a lot of weapons that struggle to deal with them. Also, yeah, I have a lot of people saying a good decision to separate, which I appreciate. I appreciate the confirmation. But yeah, so Sploosh is honestly like pretty reasonable for dealing with fish sticks. Just like obviously you're going to have to climb it, and because of its extremely low range, it can actually be a little difficult to paint the stick. But once you get up there, the shot rate and damage is enough that you're easily going to dispatch all the little guys. So I think around 3 stars is pretty reasonable. The dolphin, the flipper flopper, very solid weapon. Sploosh is really great at painting, great DPS, of course. I think we'll go ahead and give this 5 stars. As for the Salmon lid, okay, Mick saying you want to learn Squid Surge with Sploosh. Yeah, yeah, Squid Surge is a very useful tool for getting up the fish sticks. Yeah, I'm very glad you brought that up actually because you don't have to paint all the way up the stick. If you paint enough of the ways up and then do a surge at the bottom of the stick, you can jump and reach on top of it. Yeah, Snaku mentioning that as well. Thank you. Um I think I'm also going to give 5 stars for Slammin' Lid. Slammin' Lid is a very weird boss in that almost all of its threat, like all of its damage threat, comes from spawning other um other the lessers and also blocking shots with its shield. So the reason Sploosh is so good for this is it can deal with lessers amazingly, and with its mobility, it can very easily get in the shield or get in the Slammin' Lid's shield to trigger the attack and then get on top of it and take it out extremely quickly. So 5 stars for that. Codster, hey, what's up? Asking, is S3 better than S2? Uh, in my opinion, yes. For a lot of reasons, although it definitely has problems. Yeah, I think the one thing you have to be careful with Squid Surge is if you do just a tiny bit of charge and then release it like super early, the climbing will be super slow, so it just like takes forever unless you cancel it, which is really annoying. I've done that accidentally a few times. But yeah, so you just like you don't have to charge it all the way up, but just kind of learning the timings is important. And big shots, I wasn't sure if I wanted to include big shots on the list because they're kind of just damage sponges. So it'd be like, oh, you can just look at the DPS of the weapon. But I think it's important for a similar reason to stingers. Well, for one, there's specific weapons that are have advantages to dealing damage to them, like rollers. But also, you have to go out to shore to deal with them, or they always spawn by shore and don't leave. So, weapons that either have uh, good mobility and survivability or have ranged options are going to have advantages. So that's why I ended up including them. And this is going to be a 5-star weapon for Sploosh as well, because basically same reasons as Stingers, but Sploosh's DPS is even more important for the big shot, as well as the survivability. So that's our first shooter weapon done. I might go through ease of use and do this as well. This is also kind of subjective and like could change it a lot, but Sploosh is clearly pretty easy to use. I think there are some things like in some ways the shot RNG makes it easier to use, but also more difficult to use because like it's not reliable for killing steelheads, for example. So there's specific things you have to do. So I'd put it at maybe like a 4-star ease of use. But stuff like this is kind of subjective. Dang. Walk disagreeing with everything. I guess my tier list is invalidated before it's even finished. So sad. Alright, so I'm gonna try to be a bit quicker about the rest of the shooter weapons because they kind of have the same reasoning as Sploosh, but just different stats. But I can go into more depth for some of them. Yeah, I'm a really big fan of this format. Again, shoutouts to Mistwalker. Um, let's see. I think I could probably post the link to the original sheet in chat. I think I have it. I think this is the one. But yeah, this is what the original sheet looks like. There are definitely a lot of things I disagree with on the original sheet, but that's understandable considering I'm pretty sure it was made like close to the start of Splatoon 2, so it's very outdated. But I love the ideas in it and I love the general like formatting of it. And I think it's valuable just as like a way to think about the weapons. All right. So Splattershot Junior. Junior is very similar to Sploosh in style, just worse DPS, slightly better range. I'm thinking like 3 or 2 stars, 2.5 for Stinger. Because again, very mobile weapon, but does struggle with lessers a bit more. Steelhead. Yeah, I think that's fair, Prim. And other people were saying 1.5. So I was like debating between 1 and 1.5. But it's definitely a bit subjective. It's just weird because it's like it's not reliable in a lot of situations. For example, like if you have a steelhead coming up onto a hydro plant, you don't have any options for height if it like reaches uh the walls around basket. And then if you have like an eel there as well or something, then the sploosh isn't going to be able to get close to do jump shots. So there's just a lot of situations where it's like sploosh is more reliant on outside factors than other weapons to be able to deal with steelheads. But yeah, I think I'm gonna just put junior. And yeah, again, I'm gonna be going through these fairly quickly, obviously subject to change. Feel free to argue because that's kind of the point of the discussion. But also, if you're like, this should be 2.5 stars instead of 2, it's like, yeah, sure. But also, it's like a point 0.5 star difference. So if we argue about every single point 0.5 star difference, uh, that might take a while. But I'm not saying I don't value the discussion, but just like keep that in mind, I guess, that it's like if you think something is slightly better, that's probably fair. Um yeah, I think you could say 3 stars is average or slightly above average. Yeah, cuz I mean 3 stars is like in the middle of it. So yeah, I think that's fairly reasonable for Gisner missiles. Like it can deal, but has to be close. For Gisners themselves, because of the lower DPS, I think around 3 stars or hmm, the ink efficiency of Junior is useful because you can like do stuff with like throwing bombs in the air to get a bit more damage on the Drizzler or stuff like that. So I think around 3 stars, maybe 2.5 would be reasonable as well. I think Junior's a bit better at dealing with fish sticks than Sploose just because of the range. So that seems fair to me. Great painting, of course. Slightly, like the DPS does hurt a little bit, but when the flopper's armor is broken, like anything is going to be able to kill it relatively quickly. So it doesn't matter super hard. So I think 5 stars is fair. Slam and Lid. It struggles a bit more than Junior with dealing with the lessers, of course, and would take a little longer to kill the lid itself, but overall still very good. I think around 4 stars. Also, Junior has great ink efficiency, so you can use bombs against the lid shield to clear some lessers. Big shot. Again, the DPS is going to matter a lot more. So, but Junior still has great mobility and survivability. But I think around 3 stars, maybe 3.5 or something like that. But I think I'll have it here for now. Yeah, honestly, I was like playing with the idea of a 6 star, but I think if I do that, it's gonna be for like um it'd be for like the Grizz weapons. Does weapon weight class matter at all when considering Stinger and Big Shot? A little bit. I'm just gonna. It's like part of mobility in the consideration for me. And I can also go over these if people have questions about them. Oh yeah, for example, yeah, another reason pure DPS is like not gonna be exactly equal to like what I have here is like Aerospray RNG. Like these have the same DPS, but Spider Shot is more reliable in hitting every bullet, especially for something like a Steelhead. So that's why I have it above it in DPS. Because even though they're like pure single target DPS is the same, Spider Shot's effective DPS is going to be higher. All right, on to Splashomatic. Splashomatic is honestly going to be like almost exact same as Junior. Like very, very similar stats. Obviously, the perfect shot RNG is helpful. Like the only thing it doesn't help with would be painting. But we get like the same for stingers. Or like a 2.5, I think, is reasonable for steelheads. Maybe 3 for drizzler missiles. 3, or maybe even a 3.5. Because I'm pretty sure, like, with Junior, you are going to miss some shots on the drizzler just because of the spread. But we'll leave it as a 3 for now as well. Yeah, honestly, could consider dropping that to a 2.5, but it doesn't really matter too much. I'm trying to be a little bit quicker here. Um, Splash is like at the weird range where you can like kind of deal with the fish stick without climbing up, but it's not entirely reliable. It's like you have to be right under it and jumping unless it's in a spot where you have something to stand on that's higher. Thinking about Junior for fish stick, I feel like I'm actually going to do this. Uh, I think that's a little bit more accurate. But again, kind of subjective. So if you disagree, it's reasonable. It's going to be a little bit worse for fish stick because the painting isn't as good as Junior, but still very, very good for flip flop. Same deal with lids. Probably just give it same as Junior. And same for big shot is pretty reasonable. Yeah, being able to hit the fish stick from the ground. Like there's certain weapons like I'll just go ahead and since we're all talking about it, give Jet Squelcher 5 stars for a fish stick because it's just like extremely useful. That's a good point, Trey. Is Splattershot Jr. has ridiculous sync efficiency. So I think I'll give it a bonus for Big Shot. Um, Aerospray. Aerospray, similar to Splattershot Jr., but better DPS. Also, the spread is silly. I'll give it a slight bonus for stingers. It doesn't even have the big ink tank. Yeah, I miss. It was really useful, especially for bombs. Hmm. I guess I'll just give it same as Sploosh, because it's like about as reliable overall. I feel weird ranking the same as Junior though, because I think Junior is better at killing steelheads than Aerospray. Like I can reliably kill steelheads with Junior from the ground level, but I cannot with Aerospray because of the spread. And I like Junior better for steelheads as well. I honestly might give Aerospray 1 star, even worse than Sploosh, just because like the combination of the spread and the lower damage than Sploosh. Like obviously it still has solid DPS, but it is significantly lower than Sploosh, as you can see. Maybe I'll like hide some of these so you can see the DPS, but I don't know. Or here, we can just zoom out. There you go. Yeah, I've still failed just standing still on it though. The reason I like Junior is like you said, it's important not to jump because of the jump RNG. But Junior, it's like the first 3 or 4 bullets or something like that have like pretty much perfect RNG. So you can actually like stop firing after that and then refire to get the RNG back and basically just confirm a steelhead kill that way. But I don't think Aerospray has that. I could be wrong. Um, yeah, maybe giving Junior 2 stars. Airspray for Drizzler. It's basically same as Sploosh, but it takes a few more shots, and the RNG is funny. So, just going through quick. Drizzler, DPS is good. I'll give it that. Fish stick, sure, solid 3, I guess. 5 for Dolphin, because of course. Well, if Aerospray gets a 1 on Steelhead, is there a worse weapon? Um, I don't know if there is a, yeah, ink brush. Is ink brush significantly worse than Aerospray for it? I would say yeah. Because it's like, things can be tied for worse or significantly worse, but yeah, I would agree with that. That like you can do damage from the ground with ink brush, but not enough. Carbon roller is also pretty terrible for it. And reflux is not good. um so yeah, since we're on the topic, you can go ahead and give ink brush 1 star for steelheads. I'll give carbon 1.5. And I think reflux is a 1.5 as well. But we can talk more about those later. Two shot with reflux. I think the problem is the charge time is too long for the amount of damage you get. But like you can pre-charge for it. Anyways, back to trying to go fast on this part. I think airspray is a bit better at dealing with lessers from the lid, so 4.5. Um, I'll give it, I'd say a 4 for Big Shot. It's better DPS than Junior. Still has good enough ink efficiency to the point where it's like you're not going to be struggling with ink if you use it smartly. Splatter Shot. I wonder if I have these values a bit too high, but I don't know. They are just generally good weapons. Like shooters are generally going to be good with dealing with stingers. But it's like, okay, is the difference like Splatter Shot is nice for the having actual accuracy, so you don't need to be right up next to the stinger. Hmm. I think I might knock that down because I don't want to have Splatter Shot all the way up as a 4, although maybe it does deserve it. But I'll keep it as a 3.5 for now. We can reevaluate later, or I can. Again, I'm gonna try to not take 10 minutes for every single one of these. Two shots to pots. I think I'm not even sure if 52 gal. What is the shot? I have this for a range reason. What is shot damage? And the pots are 50, so it should one shot it. Yeah, 96 definitely one shots it. Take an hour for each. It'd be funny. 52 is kind of bad. Yeah, 52. Yeah, actually, I have had an oversight. I did not put the boss HP. A pot is 60. Yeah, that's right. Because I know bamboo taps one shot it, but 52 is 52. So yeah, 52 is kind of bad for stingers because of that, because the slow fire rate and wasting DPS. So it's still manageable because it's a shooter and you can like survive out there, but it's slow. So like 2.5 or I don't know. Like just from my memories of killing stingers with 52, it's like it doesn't take it doesn't take years. It's not like terrible. I think 2.5 is kind of reasonable. Splattershot is a solid 3 for steelheads, I'd say. 3.5 for reflecting just their missiles. Yeah. If it took out the pots in one shot, it'd be very nice. It'd be like 96, but nope. I'm honestly gonna knock aerospray for drizzlers down to 3 because I hate it. and I'll give Splattershot a 3.5. Totally not biased. Nah, but for real, like, you do lose aerospray bullets when killing Drizzler, so just like the RNG makes it less efficient. Why did I wait? I guess I feel like Splattershot has slightly better range, but it's still a bit weird. It's a bit weird in that range for fish sticks where it's like you have to be right under it and shooting up. I think Drizzlers having 900 HP is fine. Otherwise, they would be too easy to kill in midair, and the time they're vulnerable is a long time. So it's like most weapons, if you focus them, you can kill them in one cycle. But it makes it interesting because it's either you have to go for a reflect or you have to either let the rain let the rain happen or let your make sure your teammates are dealing with the rain missile while you kill the drizzler, or you can make it aim in a direction where the rain doesn't matter. Yeah, I wish there was like a drizzler and a big shot dummy. And a an armored flip flopper dummy. But anyways, I think splatter shot solid 4.5 for fish stick. It's just a good painter. It's not incredible, but it's gonna be good enough. Yeah, exactly, Snake. It promotes teamwork. Um, Slam and lid for splatter shot. Solid, solid 4.5. Why not? Big shots. Hmm. Hmm. I feel like I'm giving weapons too high scores already. I might knock these down to 3.5. I think you're right because either will charge two shots them. Artist. No, the only boss I think should be nerfed is Flyfish. I think every other boss is completely fine, and Flyfish is just terribly designed. But that's just my opinion. I think the idea of Flyfish is fine. Like I think if they nerfed it, like it's completely fixable. Flyfishes are completely fixable. Like you could do their nerfs. It's like missiles are fixable, but remove the one shot or reduce their damage radius or both, and change the way flyfish baskets work. Honestly, I'm fine. I think from a balance perspective, having them be able to be killed with one bomb, like only having one cockpit, would or only having one missile basket would be like the design choice that makes sense. But obviously, that's not going to happen because they're not going to like remodel the boss. But it's like, okay, it's a flying double Moz that shoots missiles and doesn't come to basket. But my main problem is the inconsistency of the baskets, like the bomb physics. I just want them to make it so if you throw a bomb in the basket, it instantly explodes. Or is at least a guaranteed kill somehow. Other than that, I like that they need armor piercing because it makes weapons like Grisco Slosher more interesting. And the new ability for to be able to one shot with explosions makes them very interesting as well. But for me, the correct way to nerf it is missile damage and just making them less jank. So that's my personal opinion on Flyfish. Anyways, 52 gal. It's fine for steelheads. It's fine for Drizzler missiles reflect. I'm pretty sure they have 100 HP. I really should have put that in the doc, but I forgot. But it two shots Drizzler missiles. I'll give it the same as Splatter Shot. Either the same or slightly worse than Splatter Shot for Drizzlers. The DPS is lower. It's fine as well for fish sticks. The shot RNG does make it. The shot RNG combined with the slower fire rate does make it a bit worse, I think. Oh yeah, if they only shot 2 missiles out of each basket, or even 3 missiles, that would honestly be like a decent enough of a nerf. But unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna happen. I honestly don't think they're even gonna correctly nerf missiles ever. So I won't be surprised if they just never touch Flyfish ever, which is unfortunate, but that's how it goes. 52 paint is not as good, but it's still pretty solid for dealing with flipper floppers. Yeah, I'm just not. I don't believe in Nintendo to do like reworks where it's like, oh, let's make 10 missiles not insta kill you. Like, I don't believe in them to make a change that's that drastic. And it's not even that drastic, but I feel like it's drastic for them. Because, like, me personally, I don't just want to die swimming off a ledge when the marker is below the ledge. Like, I don't want to have to look both ways before crossing every street, for an analogy. I don't want to have to change my camera angle to make sure that there's not a missile waiting for me. But it's just nonsense. Like, you have really jank things. In PvP, like, I got missile directed by a missile that had no marker because it was on Scorch Gorge, so it was either something to do with like one of the grates or like the stage objects that was above me, where it's just like there was no marker and I died instantly. So it's like, please change that. Like, it's not fun. But anyways, I will be very surprised if they ever actually nerf it in a way that isn't just like, oh hey, this special takes longer to get now. Yeah, They're very annoying while climbing walls, also. 52 gal, still solid for dealing with slamming lids. Like, it has solid DPS, solid enough mobility, can deal with lessers. I don't know, I feel like I'm ranking all these super high. Like, Sploosh definitely deserves the 5-star, but everything else I feel like could drop down. But also the mobility is like actually so important for Slam and Lid because unless you can deal with it without triggering its attack, having a weapon with like high mobility, which is basically shooters and some other stuff, being able to dip in and out of the shield. But yeah, it can definitely revise the ratings later. For now, I think it's fine. 52 gal for big shots. I mean, the ink efficiency is like pretty good actually, even though it doesn't seem like it's one of those weapons. Like if you compare it to Splattershot Pro, it's just like solid, 52 gal is one of those weapons that's just kind of like solid. Like it's not incredible at anything, but you can pretty much do most things. Nzap, 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 Nzap. Kind of similar to Splashomatic. A little bit more range. Um, Also, for the record, this ink usage chart I kept in here, but it might be outdated because I did not have enough time to update it. So the star rankings and the notes are not my own. So if it looks weird, that's why, because it hasn't been even updated for the new game. But I still think it's like mostly like they didn't really change the ink usage for at least most of the weapons. But anyways, side note. Side note over. Um, and Zap. You can pretty much just give it the same as Splash for like everything. Like honestly, I'm not sure what would be different. It's maybe slightly better for fish sticks. Yeah, I feel like I might be in general ranking things slightly too high. So I might end up dropping everything by like 0.5 a star, depending on how the rest of the sheet goes, but for now, keeping it. Splattershot Pro. This is where we get into the shooters that are kind of weird. Like Splattershot Pro like seems fine on paper, but the ink efficiency affects it a lot. It is definitely like the weakest thing about the weapon. What's its per bullet damage? 45. So yeah, it two shots stinger pots, which is a little bit rough. It's still like solid at dealing with it. You can deal with it from a somewhat farther range, but it does struggle with surviving on its own. It's kind of in a weird spot because it's not like Rapid Blaster Pro where you're gonna like one or two shot the stinger from super far away super quickly. So it's like its range isn't quite long enough to deal with it super easily from a lot of places, but it also damage output and like ink efficiency isn't enough to protect it from lessers on its own. So you kind of have to be super careful dealing with stingers. You definitely have to play more evasive than some of the other shooters. So I think I'm gonna give it same as 52 gal, or even might even drop it to 2 stars, which seems weird because like you think, oh, range better for stingers, and in a way, yes, but like the ink efficiency hurts it so much. But I mean, there definitely are points where the range is useful. So I think I'll keep it at 2.5. But it's honestly just in a weird spot. Pro, just solid for steelheads. Quite solid for torps. Could potentially even move it up to 4 stars. Drizzler, honestly, 2.5 for the main body of Drizzler, just for like ink efficiency again. It just hurts it. It is very good at dealing with fish sticks from the ground. I'll give it that. Its painting is not great. It can solo paint, but like if there's stuff in the way, like it's gonna have a harder time painting fish stick than the other stuff here. Salmon lid. It's still solid enough at getting in to trigger the shield, or with added range, there are certain spots where you might be able to kill it without having to do that, but not reliably. Maybe a 3 star. Honestly, it does struggle with lessers a lot though, so it honestly might be a 2.5 again. And big shot, just 2 or maybe even 1.5 because of the ink efficiency. But there are a lot of spots on maps where you can perch where you're just like not getting constantly swarmed by lessers. You just have to be careful about it. I think that's solid enough for now. Probably give it a bit of a bonus for steelheads. 96 gal. I think 96 gal is top 2 shooters easily. Like honestly, I feel like a lot of people were like sleeping on it in uh the original Salmon run. Like its DPS is crazy, especially for like a long range weapon. Like, you can just see it has the best other than Sploosh. So anyways, one shot stinger pots. That alone puts it up here. I don't think I'm going to give it a 5 star, just because there's other weapons that are really, really good at dealing with stingers, but it's great. It's great for stingers. Very, very solid for steelheads as well. The RNG can make it a little bit iffy, but very solid. It's in a slightly weird spot for Drizzler missiles, because the bullet damage isn't quite enough to one shot, which is a little unfortunate, but like you shoot every 12 frames. So it's not terrible. Like takes less than half a second if you hit both shots. Yeah, I think towards the end people were recognizing how good it was. But yeah, I think a solid solid 4 stars, just their missiles. Again, great DPS, and because of the range, you can deal a solid amount of DPS while the Drizzler's jumping. I think 4.5. Pretty reasonable. Um, it one-shots the little guys. You can shoot from ground level. The RNG can cause a few issues. It does struggle with lessers. It is unfortunate. Yeah, it would actually be so busted if it did 100 damage per bullet. If there was a shooter that did that, that'd be crazy. But yeah, exactly. It can. It's not even bad for chums and small fry though. It's just they can be obnoxious. It's like the weakest part of the weapon, but it still deals with them fine. Um, yeah, exactly, because of the low fire rate. Um, so yeah, I think there's a little bit of a trade-off with the accuracy versus damage. It's a little less consistent at dealing with the fish sticks than Splattershot Pro. So I'm not sure if I want to give it a 4 or a 3.5. I'll do 3.5 for now. Finally getting to the first boss that it isn't really great at is it because its painting isn't that good. Probably give it the same as Splattershot Pro. Let's see. I wonder how long it would take to kill it while in the air. Because that minus might honestly be a solid enough strategy, but it just it's this in the spot where it's like decent at painting, but unless like nothing else is going on, you're probably gonna need another teammate to help to confirm the flipper paint. Unless it's like jumping to a spot that's like open or there's already paint there or something like that. In which case, whatever. But kind of want to think of like worst case scenario. Yeah, exactly, Mick. It's not the best use of the weapon's time. There's other things you should be doing with the weapon. Unless it's like the only thing going on, or it's like at basket and other people need help with it or something. But it's like if you look at Sploosh, like there's almost never going to be a time where a Sploosh is unable to paint for the flipper flopper or junior or something like that. Um, for Slammin' Lid, does struggle a little bit with lessers. The mobility is good enough that you can get in, and again, kind of same with Splattershot Pro, whereas like there are some situations where you can shoot it from afar, but because of the elevation, it can be tough. Um, so yeah, I think just because of the better DPS, I think you can still keep it at like a 3.5 or even a 4 might be reasonable. Because honestly, I feel like I might be underrating the 96 here and overrating everything else. But I mean, a 3.5 is still like a solid score. Like it has no trouble dealing with lids for the most part. And big shot, I think a 4 is solid. Again, if there's lessers in the area, can be a little bit scary. Don't want to jump into a crowd of lessers pretty much ever in this game, but especially not with this weapon. It's not a Luna Blaster, but the DPS is solid. You can clear the lessers fairly quickly and do a lot of damage to the big shot. All right. Almost done with the shooters. Jet Squelcher. Yeah, it two shots the stingers. The stinger pots. Just like most of the other slower shooters. The extra range does help a lot, though, if you notice the difference between Splattershot Pro and Jet Squelcher. It's a bigger difference than Splattershot Pro is to Splattershot. So that range is quite useful for dealing with stingers. Of course, Jet Squelcher's problem is its damage is very low, so it struggles the most out of all shielders with dealing with lessers. So you're not gonna get close to the stingers unless you have help or lessers aren't spawning anymore. So you're not really gonna be getting the stinger eggs. It is helpful, like there's definitely spots you can stand on a lot of maps and dispatch the stingers easily. Think Hydro Plant, Normal Tide, for example. Very, very useful there. Hmm. I still think 4 stars might be overvaluing a bit much. Because it's not really like the fastest at dealing with the stingers. Like it does a good job. You can typically stay safe. But if it's like a flat area and lessers are in the way, think like a low tide, such as grounds low tide, where it's just 3 separate paths, where if there's lessers blocking the way, there's not much you're going to be able to do. Might consider bomb combo for stinger rating. Yeah, like bombs are useful for more weapons than others. With the way bomb radius damage works, I think it's like if you have a bomb at the bottom, it'll take out um it's just 1 pot for the first bomb, right? And then the next 3 to 4 pots will be damaged enough where you can it'll only take 1 shot from the Jet Squelcher, for example, and then the top 2 pots will be undamaged. So yeah, it is more or less useful depending on the weapon, and that also goes into like ink efficiency. Basically, the game's really fucking complicated. um, yeah, it's in a weird spot. Like, it's definitely significantly better than Splattershot Pro, but because of how much it struggles with lessers, I'm not gonna give it like a super high rating. I think like a 3.5. Yeah, yeah, Prim. I might change the sorting, but I have it the same as in this DPS sheet. But there are a few things that are weird. It's like, why is NZAP after 52 gal or something like that? A few things that I don't really get with the sorting, but it's whatever. All right, Jet Squelcher. You can deal with the steelheads from very far away. but the damage is so bad that it's like you can consistently one cycle them, but if something gets in the way, which things often get in the way in this game mode, it's just something that happens. A lesser hits you, or a boss is passing by, a drizzler shoots a torpedo that intercepts some of your bullets, then that can mess up the one cycle. The range is useful, of course. I think good 2.5 stars might be fair. A lesser walks up and smacks you off a cliff that is 10 miles away. Yep, happens quite a lot. I think 2.5 stars is reasonable. Now, torpedo. Torpedo, torpedo, torpedo. This is where Jet Sculpture really shines. 5 stars free. This is like, if you have Jet Sculpture, Drizzler missiles are like the number one thing you should be looking out for. Because they this is the bonus of having a long range shooter. Like chargers, it's in the name. You have to take time to charge up. Just their missiles can go by pretty quickly. So like by the time a charger notices, they might not be able to knock them down in time. Jet Sculpture, you can just turn, hit it with 3 shots. Super quick and easy. Now, Drizzlers, on the other hand, this is like the clear example of the divide between the Drizzler torpedoes and the Drizzler themselves. The range is useful for dealing with them while they're jumping, but the damage is so abysmal that it takes a lot of shots to take them out. And flipper floppers, paint is not great, damage is not great. Probably 1.5 or honestly could be even 1 star. Like I'm struggling to think of like what weapon paints worse than Jet Sculpture for the flipper flopper. I guess something like Range Blaster maybe. It's not like it does. But the thing that you have to keep in mind, Prim, is that single target DPS. Which is why all the blaster values are so low. It is like wild to think about, but it's like, yeah, if you have one Cohawk, Luna Blaster and Jet Sculpture are going to take them out in the same amount of time. But if you have 2 Cohawks, if you have a line of Cohawks, the time it takes to take them out becomes very, very different. And that is why the numbers are the same here, but the stars are not the same here. Yeah, honestly, I think there is a psychological thing there, Prim, where it's just like, man, this weapon is so bad. This weapon is so weak and flimsy. 1.5. Yeah, yeah, I do think 1.1 star. I can see an argument for 2 stars for Flipper over an argument for 1 star, probably for Jet Squelcher. I think I'll leave it as 1.5 for now. It's like it can. I don't know. Is it really that much worse than Splattershot Pro or 96 gal? Maybe I'll bump it up to 2 stars, or maybe I'll bump them all down later. It's whatever. Jet Sculpture is weird for yeah, 1 star is the worst of the worst. We can list weapons worse than Jet for sure for flop. Yeah. I guess the other thing to keep in mind is it's like I said I wasn't gonna talk about each one for 10 minutes, but it's not just about in a vacuum. Like there's other things related. So it's like it's not just oh, there's a flipper flopper and nothing else on the screen. How fast can you paint the zone? It's also like are there lessers in the zone? Are there other bosses in the zone? Can you manage those while having the zone painted? And 96 gal and Splash Up Pro to an extent are going to be able to do that better. Speaking of which, almost nothing paints the zone when it's contested. It depends how contested it is. Like, yeah, if there's 3 eels coiled into a ball on top of the zone, it's not going to get painted. But there's like I've definitely painted zones before when there's like an eel and a scrapper sitting on it. Or like if there's lessers in it, you can kill the lessers and paint the zone. Also, hi Mina. Appreciate you stopping by. Rain and fish stick considered as well. Yeah, those are also things that can affect the flipper flopper zone. Okay. Salmon lid for jet squelcher. I honestly haven't tried. Like, I should try just shooting at it from afar to see how long it takes to kill a bit more. But the low damage, combined with the fall off damage of the jet squelcher, means I think you're going to be shooting at the lid for a while. So in most cases, I would think it would be better to just activate the lid. But regardless, there's a lot of weapons that can deal with it better. Yeah, I think fish stick is a very interesting. I mean, I just think it's telling that I only have four, well, really only three and like a half bosses from the first game on here, but I have all four of the new bosses on here. Now, part of that also may just be that I wanted to like for the new game have info on each of the new bosses, but it's also like their designs all have like something that requires unique strengths of a weapon to deal with. These two, to a lesser extent, especially Big Shot was like the only one I was considering not having on the list. But especially these two, I think the design are really interesting. All right, so I think it's solid enough at dealing with lid, but wouldn't consider it great by any means. And Big Shot, you really just don't want weapons with low DPS dealing with big shot. Like I there's hardly a scenario where I could like ever think of a jet squelcher handling a big shot on its own that where it's like you would want the weapon rolls switched with something else in the comp. Like there might be times where you have to do it, but it's never gonna be that's gonna be in like freelance or something, or in very certain situations. It's like generally you just do not want to be doing this. Show comparison between 96 and Sploosh. Sure. I forgot how much I'd like suck at talking. Like I have been drinking so much water and my mouth is still dry. And we're barely done with the shooters. Consider Sploosh a mega top tier. Yeah, they're both kind of min maxy in different ways, but I would consider 96 a more well rounded weapon. But they're both top tiers in my opinion. The best shooters for sure. Luna Luna for Stinger is interesting. I think I might end up giving it the same as Sploosh, but for like reasoning is slightly different. Like they're both very good at dealing with lessers, of course, and Luna is slightly faster at killing the Stinger itself, but also it has not quite as good mobility. So I think it kind of like averages out. Yeah, exactly, artist. Sploosh is like so good at destroying everything close range, but 96 is like 96 honestly might be like the best like well-rounded top tier. Like if you're thinking of Splattershot or 52 Gal as like super well-rounded can handle anything, 96 Gal can like handle anything and do it extremely well. There's like a few weak points, but overall it's going to do almost everything very well. It's like if you just compare 96 Gal to like Splattershot or something, the only two things that Splattershot I put as better for are Flipper, Flopper, and Slam and Lid, and 96 Gal is still solid for those. Yeah, so like if I decided to like average out all these scores afterwards, I could see 96 getting the highest rating. But anyways, back to Luna. Solid enough for dealing with steelheads. Um, yeah, I don't know where I want to put it at. Cause like you do need to combo a direct and an indirect at least to kill. And its direct range is pretty short, but it's like it has the accuracy enough to kill it. It's just like you have to work a little bit harder with Luna. Like you're typically going to want some sort of height advantage, but there's a lot of places on the maps that you can find that. I feel like 2.5 is fair. Could drop it down to 2, but I think 2.5 is fine. Um, Torpedo. Torpedo is really, really interesting for Luna. And I think people, again, I think there's just a general thing where like people are not aware of just their torpedoes as much as they should be. The really, really cool thing about Luna is an indirect will one shot the torp. So you can literally just like flick, fire in the torp's general direction, knock it down, and bam, you negated like an attack that a drizzler takes like 8 seconds to do or something. So it's like you get so much value for one little movement, and then you can just go back to destroying lessers. So yeah, I don't know. The range is obviously like you're not gonna be getting just torps from far range, but like if you can reach it, you just knock it down super quick and easy. And the Luna's great fire rate also helps with that. Now, Drizzlers by themselves, attacking the Drizzler itself is a little bit of a weakness because for blasters in general, because you can see their single target DPS is actually somewhat low. But you do have situations often where there's gonna be like a there's lessers example attacking you while you're trying to slay the Drizzler. So Luna can handle situations like that a lot better than something like Jet Squelcher. So I think 2 stars might be reasonable. Um, Honestly, this still feels low, but I'm not really sure what argument I have for putting it higher. Like, I guess I could just like value Luna's ability to deal with other things in the area while still trying to knock out the Drizzler. Because, like, just playing the game a lot, it feels like Luna would be better than this, like, would be rated higher. But I'm not exactly sure how I would argue it, given the data. So maybe I've just been biased towards it. Yeah, I'll leave it as 2 for now. It was just kind of surprising to me. Okay. Fish stick. Very, very solid. It's like low range, obviously, but for reference, the range in the parentheses is with the, yes, the funny singing dudes. The range in parentheses is the range of the indirect, and blaster indirects are very, very good for dealing with fish sticks. You're not loving Luna for your fish stick. Yeah, the short range can be annoying, but I think it's still quite good. Like I can give it a 3.5 at the worst. Having to get into the fish sticks painting range is a little bit annoying, but like Luna can handle it. Yeah, you do have to jump a lot. Yeah, I think 3.5 or a 4 sounds good. Fish stick. Luna's painting is like fine. It's not great, but it's solid enough. And being able to easily deal with lessers or other things that may interfere. I'd say like a 2.5 or 3 sounds fine. I think you can struggle with solo painting a little bit, so 2.5 maybe. Um, for lids, Luna's great at dealing with lessers. Pretty easy to trigger the lid attack. I think a solid 4. And then big shots. Again, single target DPS isn't crazy, but you can be directing the big shot and dealing with chums and small fry with the indirects at the same time. You can pretty much deal with the lesser spawning and the big shot at the same time. So I think a 4-star. Hmm. Maybe could knock it down to a 3.5. Just because, like, the damage for killing the big shot itself isn't great, but still a very solid choice. Alright, I'm gonna BRB very shortly to go refill my water bottle, so I do not die. Alright, I'm back. Yes, the Luna Blaster has 200 damage directs, so it takes 6 shots to kill the big shot. 6 big shots. I'm so glad Ranged Blaster got damage buffed. Anyways. Blaster is going to be quite solid for dealing with stingers. Can do it a little bit farther away from Luna, but it's also going to struggle to deal with lessers slightly more. I think Blaster's gonna end up looking not so great on this list because I think they can struggle with bosses. Like mainly single target DPS is their weak point, but they excel at dealing with lessers. So I still think they are very good in this game, especially given the lesser buffs and how dangerous they are now. Yeah, it's still Range Blaster is still really good for dealing with steelheads though. Like it would be nice to one shot with a direct, but still very easy to direct and then indirect. Um, Rapid Blaster Pro got buffed as well to two shot steelheads with directs, whereas before there's a very difficult timing combo you still have to do with Rapid Blaster because it didn't get buffed, but it's a lot easier on Rapid Blaster. It still is a little annoying, but the Rapid Blaster Pro Steelhead combo was very satisfying to hit because you had to pre-shoot and hit it with an indirect. So okay, Blaster still a very solid choice dealing with stingers. I'll knock it down a little from Luna because it does struggle a little bit more dealing with lesser spawns on its own. Gonna be a bit better than Luna for dealing with steelheads. 3 or even at 3.5, honestly. But its range isn't that much better than Luna. So I think 3 is reasonable. We can go ahead and put a 3.5 for range. Um, okay. Drizzler Torps. Again, it's the kind of same scenario as Luna, but if you want to indirect, you have to make sure you're at the right um, range. But still fairly easy to do. Very good at dealing with just their torpedoes. The slow fire rate hurts a little bit. Honestly, I kind of want to keep it around the same because I feel like the fire rate and the range trade off a bit. If anything, Range Blaster can have a harder time just because like the fire rate is really rough, where it's like it impacts its mobility and uh just like how it's dealing with lessers so much that it can make it harder to do a quick shot to knock down a Drizzler torpedo and then continue with what you were doing earlier if you're being like harassed by lessers, for example. It's more of a commitment to knock down the torpedo than Luna or Blaster has to make. Like Luna shoots every 40 frames. Range Blaster shoots every 60 frames. For Blaster, it's 50 frames. So I kind of want to have it a little bit lower. It's still a very solid choice. I kind of even want to put Luna higher up. Yeah, Range Blaster. It's still very good for dealing with torpedoes. The range does help. Maybe I'm being unfair to it. Okay. It's getting difficult, and we are not far into the sheet at all. Man, it's been an hour and 40 minutes. It was crazy. Alright, alright. I might have to speed run. Single target DPS, not great. for both blaster and range blaster. Honestly, yeah, a lot of things subject to change. Blaster and range blaster very solid for dealing with fish sticks. I want to give Luna 4 stars at least. Now that I'm thinking about it more, give Blaster 5 stars, and then Range Blaster, because every blaster can well, the 3 blasters with the stronger indirects can 2-shot fish sticks. We haven't even got to the most interesting weapons. um. So yeah, might be speedrunning. This might become a little bit less accurate, but I'm gonna try to go faster. Weapons kind of suck at painting. Especially for fish sticks. They do alright versus lids. It's 2 stars. The thing with range blaster is it is very scary to be up close with lessers because of the slower fire rate. So you really don't want to have a Quahog get spawned right on your face, trying to get into the lid shield. Range blaster might be 1-star flop. I think that's fair. Big shot. Again, these are just going to be a bit worse than Luna. Still good at dealing with lessers. The range blaster does have better DPS than the blaster overall. So it kind of evens out a bit. I think I'm going to knock them both down to 2.5. Okay. And range blaster, quite solid. Better DPS than blaster. So it can still deal with the lessers quite well. But the mobility is a little bit of an issue. I want to give it 4. Clash Blaster. Very weird weapon. Very, very good at dealing with lessers, but single target DPS is not great. I mean, still better than the range blasters, but it relies on hitting directs, which you can just see the Clash Blaster. Like, look how big its indirect range is compared to its direct range. So it does fine for dealing with steelheads. Actually does it though, because you need the directs. You need a certain amount of directs. Honestly, I'm feeling you really, really want a height advantage. Like you can one cycle it from ground level, but it's kind of annoying. 2.5 for 1, I'm feeling. Very solid for stingers though. Does fine versus just their torps. Pretty solid for knocking them down. Again, not great single target DPS. Very, very good versus fish sticks. Super, super nice. Painting. Painting is pretty bad. Maybe up to a 2. Maybe. It just, the painting is inconsistent, is the problem. Because, like, you can spread a decent amount of paint with Clash, but it's not gonna be consistent. And you kind of need, like, consistent paint of, like, a shooter to, cover the entire zone to, like, actually activate it. Yeah, exactly. Clash is pretty slow for killing steelheads. It's still pretty easy to do with high ground, but it's not great. I feel like Luna and Clash should be around the same for steelhead. Okay. Salmon lid. It's a bit better at dealing with close-up stuff because of the high fire rate. I'd honestly put it at like a 3.5 for lid. And then for big shots, again, the high fire rate helps with the mobility a bit. So I'll put it a little closer to Luna. Hmm. I don't know. The DPS is significantly worse though. Maybe I should even knock these down. These might be 2s. I mean, they do all right, but they're not like great. They are really nice for dealing with lessers, though. I don't know. This is so difficult. Clash is 1.5. I think Luna and Blaster need a zero point 0.5 drop. That's a pretty small difference. Um, yeah, you could maybe give Clash a 2. Looks like you can paint decently well with it. Yeah, Clash. Clash above these two for big shot does not feel right. I think we'll keep it here, or maybe drop them all. I don't know. Maybe you can come back to it. We can also keep in mind these blasters have significantly better ink efficiency than Clash. All right, all right. Rapid Blaster Pro, both crazy, crazy good for dealing with stingers. Steelheads, on the other hand, and they can do it fine enough. Like, the range is useful, of course. Like, it's not too hard to combo them. Just need 2 shots. The Rapid Blaster Pro, but it is a little bit more difficult with Rapid Blaster and more of a time commitment since you're going to need 3 shots. I'm thinking a 2.5, like equal with Jet Sculpture sounds right for that. And then we can give Rapid Blaster a 3 since you only need 2 shots. Torpedoes, on the other hand, are kind of weird, but you can just get them with a direct. You're typically not going to indirect unless you double them up. So you're really gonna have to rely on directing it. But they're still like decent. Like they do fine or solid against it even. Mm, 3 stars does feel a bit too high though, because if you miss like the one shot, you're probably not going to get it. I don't know. It's like you have to consider a lot of situations. Like if nothing's attacking you, if there's just nothing going on, then yeah, they're really really easy and simple to reflect torps with. But if you're like getting harassed by lessers, it's a different story. Whereas if you're a shooter weapon, it doesn't really matter. Weird, you would say 0.5. Yeah, maybe I'm underrating them a bit. Mm. I think 3 or 3.5 would be better. Because like you can knock them down in just one shot, which is really useful. But if there's things in the way, it's gonna be a lot more difficult. What are the situations where you miss a torpedo? Mm, I don't know. I miss a decent amount. I guess I'm thinking more like difficult scenarios though. I mean, like obviously I'm not missing if I'm like grounded and not have a lot of stuff going on, but there's lessers in the way. Because like I think there's like lessers in front of you. If you have range blaster, you can just jump and shoot it, and it's gone. And it doesn't really matter that you don't have perfect jump accuracy. If you try to jump and shoot over some lessers with the rain, with one of the rapids, it's probably just gonna miss. I'm probably being a bit too harsh with like the imperfect scenarios, though. To be fair, because like there's things you can do to play around it. I don't know. Mm, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider. I think the difficulty is in remembering the torpedo not hitting it, though. To be honest, I think half the times I miss it, or if it's like behind me, and I try to like optimally 180 and shoot it without like slowing down my rate of fire, and I can miss it like that sometimes. But other than that, you can play a little more safe and not lose much time. Jizzers, though, the single target DPS is not good. Being able to hit them while they're flying helps a little bit, but it's still like, it's not good. Honestly, it's probably still a 1 star. Fish sticks, on the other hand, okay. Um, they're really good. I'm not quite sure if I want to give them 5 stars because in hectic scenarios, You kind of have to be a very specific range. Yeah, I think 4.5 is a good rating. Because the one weakness is like, say you have Clash Blaster or Range Blaster, you can just like shoot up twice, or like you can manage it while other stuff is happening, with because of like how ridiculously big the indirect radius is. With Rapid Blaster and Rapid Blaster Pro, the range you have to be at is a little bit more specific. So it's easier for there to be situations where it's not safe for you to be at that specific range. And also, it takes a little longer. But there are a lot of things you can do with this weapon versus fish sticks that you can't do with other weapons. Like Rapid Blaster Pro is the best weapon for killing fish sticks before they even drop, which is very useful because then you can get multiple fish stick spawns that are like close to basket, for example, which helps with eggs a bit. Flipper Flopper, they're not great painters. They do like decently well. I think like a 2 and then a 1.5. And then for Salmon lids, you can hit them with indirects without triggering them, but it's not really worth it. It's just kind of like a mediocre weapon. Like they're not terrible for dealing with close-up blasters, but they're not great at it either. So it's a little bit risky. Two 2.5 or a 2? I don't know. Splattershot Pro is better. And then big shots. Again, they're good at dealing with lessers, but not as good as the other blasters, and the single target damage is not it. So, probably a 1.5 and a 1, to be honest. I might have to split this up into 2 streams. This is killing me. This is where we fight. Yep. Tap shooters. Nah, L3 is really good. 400 single target DPS potential. Blah, 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 blah. So, L3 is like a very good, well-rounded weapon. Like, I don't think it gets 5 stars for everything, but it's gonna do very well for practically everything. It also has very solid range. What's this shot? 40 damage. H3 is 70. Yeah, H3 is actually very good for stingers because it one-shots pots with each bullet. L3, a little slower. Probably give H3 a 4 and L3 like a 3.5. It is, the ink usage is also very good on both of them, really. H3 buff is like actually really significant, and really solid. Like I have an old DPS sheet for Splat 2 here. You can see H3 got like a 60 DPS buff. It's honestly crazy. Really, really good. H3 was like pretty painful to use. Like it was pretty widely hated before, and like now it's like actually a solid weapon. Anyways, good range, good damage. Yep, 70 per shot instead of 60. I think it's like minimum 3.5 for a steelhead. Gave 96 a 4-star. Yeah, I think it can get a 4 then. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think both of those get a 4 for steelheads. I think they can both get a 3.5 or even a 4 for Drizzler Torps. The only problem I have with these with Drizzler Torps is they require like quick um changes, and H3 kind of especially has like a little bit of a problem where it's like you shoot and then swim. So like the movement is a bit weird with that. And movement is kind of important for getting in range or an angle on a Drizzler Torp. So it's like not quite as good as you would like think a pure shooter with like this DPS stat and range value would be against Torps, but still very solid. I think 4 is fair for both of them, to be honest. This one has a little worse range, but better mobility on the L3. Drizzlers. What have I been doing for the shooters? 4.5 for Sploosh. Honestly, 4-star. Hmm. Fish stick. Again, good range. Do they just get 4s across? Maybe H3 gets 3s on flop? Yeah, honestly, they do pretty great. Like, I think H3 is gonna look a little inflated on this sheet because it's not great versus lessers, and the mobility is a bit more rough. I think H3 might only get a 3 on flops. And H3 is also a little bit weird for fish sticks because the mobility and like obviously you can shoot the fish stick from outside the paint range, but if you end up getting caught in the paint range, it's super annoying because of the way the weapon works. Because you shoot and then the fish stick paints over your shot. So that's just like an obnoxious matchup thing. But it's still solid for dealing with fish sticks. Um Like, I mean, range. The shots kill them in one hit. Didn't mean to be that for to be a 3. Um, and yeah, L3 probably gets that as well. Probably gets a 4 for flip. And then I think H3 gets hit a bit here. So yeah, you can shoot every 32 frames, which is not good for mobility and painting your feet to get in and out of the lid area. And it also struggles a bit with lessers. So it's still manageable, but it's weird. I'm kind of feeling a 2.5. Did I just skip Jet Sculpture for this? I feel like Jet Sculpture. What did I put Pro as? It's just Pro, but like with worse damage and mobility and a harder time with lessers. So like a 2 or a 1.5. Uh, I mean, if you can get in and get it to crush, it's pretty decent. Like it works. Depends on how many lessers there are, I guess. Okay. L3 Nosmos, better mobility, better at dealing with lessers. Can still be a little bit awkward, so I'm kind of feeling like a 3.5 on the lid. Yeah. Big shot, good DPS, acceptable mobility, good dealing with lessers. Acceptable maybe sounds a little harsh. It's solid. Solid mobility. Um yeah, I think having it same as 96 is reasonable. And then with H3, I think 3 or 3.5. I think you can give it a 3.5. I don't know. Lesser spawns are super annoying with H3 though. Like you can get destroyed by small fry. 96 better. Okay. Also, when I was talking about shooters, I wasn't really including tap shooters. But 96 better. Where would on go to view these charts? Um, I will make it public after the stream. Actually, I can go ahead. I don't know. I could go ahead and post a link. I'm gonna post it on my Twitter. I might post it in chat on the at the end of the stream, but I'll also post it on Twitter. If you don't follow my Twitter. Give me my profile. Boom. I do have a YouTube. I was honestly thinking about posting an edited version of this because I want to like do some more edited content, but right now I only have like two videos and they're kind of mid. But most of my streams go up on my archive channel. Then I'm trying to, and right now my archive channel has like 5 times as many subscribers as my edited content channel, which is funny. But I will try to do more stuff when I feel like it. Squeezer. Squeezer still kinda sucks. In my opinion, Prim, you're the comp player, so you can disagree with me on this. But I think Squeezer is easily the hardest out of these to consistently hit max DPS. To the point where it's like not realistic. How do you feel about that statement? The most exhausting, lol. Yeah. And the problem is, for all that effort, it's still worse than the other two. Tap shots do 50, so they don't even one shot stinger pots. Yeah, stinger is just annoying. Man, it'd actually be so much better if they just buffed it to do 60 per tap shot. As a resident carpal tunnel sufferer, I can tell you I need to use my index finger for L3, but I need to change finger for squeezer. Yeah. I was legitimately thinking about changing like swapping the trigger and the jump button, like the jump and the shot button to mash shot with button, but I was testing it out and it didn't really seem to improve my fire rate with squeezer at all. Even though I feel like I can definitely mash the button better. But I still feel like the buttons on the pro controller are not great for mashing. But either way, it sucks ass, and it's annoying that that's a game mechanic. To be honest, to that extent at least, where you have to tap every 8 frames. Yeah, you can switch to your ring finger for sustain. Okay. So Squeezer is just kind of mid or worse even in some situations, which is really annoying for how much effort it takes. I'm just gonna put ease of use at 1 star. Fuck this weapon. um. Okay. So it's like it does fine for stingers. Here's the thing: Splat Pro has a free a free fire rate. I guess I never really thought about it, but technically, like optimal squeezer kill on Stinger would be like one tap shot, one hold shot, tap shot, hold shot, and like alternate that. Because it's like for Chum, for example, it's not optimal to spam tap shot, but it's still really weird and annoying to use. Anyways, honestly, It's not that much worse than Splattershot Pro to drop it a whole half star, I think, probably. Actually, I have an excuse to drop it at 2 stars. Thank you, James, for bringing it up. Squeezer has terrible ink efficiency, with tap shots at least. Again, this is if you're perfect tap shotting, so it's not actually going to empty this quick, but 6 seconds. I think that's the worst in the entire game. Okay, Dynamo Roller. Yeah, makes sense. But it's pretty down there. Yeah, they really needed to buff it. Normal fire is better for painting, tap shots are better for TPS. If you just hold it on Squeezer, the DPS is worse than Jet Squelcher. And that's not even considering the RNG. So you can you can get away with it for lessers, but I'm pretty sure like for Chum, or it's like there's like certain combos. It might even be different because I'm not sure if they changed it. But there's like certain things you want to do. Um, yeah, I wonder if anyone has like a good video on Squeezer. Anyways, it's fine for Steelhead. The accuracy and range is very good. Um, okay, if I have Splat Pro as a 3.5, should it be the same? It could honestly even go higher. Like, I should give Squeezer credit for what it's worth. Optimal weapons for Kohawk DPS. Quadruple Hydra. Sort of joking, but like, also sort of not. No, you definitely want one mobile painter at least, but it would be funny. Oh yeah. Also, if you're including Grizz weapons, yeah, Grizzbow. Definitely Grizzbow. And maybe Dynamo if people can figure out how to get a good rolled cheese going on. Yeah. I had a very unfortunate moment when we were trilancing and the freelancer got the Hydra. I was like, no, please shoot the Quahog. The giant Quahog, I mean. But it happens. They simply do not know because the game does not tell them. Because the game barely has a tutorial. Anyway, Squeezer also very solid for dealing with just their missiles. And it's decent enough for dealing with Drizzlers. Annoying, but decent. And the range does quite help. It's pretty solid for fish sticks as well. More than solid, I would say. It has the painting mode. more solid from the ground. For weapons like Squeezer and Jet Squelcher, you want to aim just depends on how the weapon wants to deal with it. I don't know how much people know about geometry, but think of like a tangent line off of a circle. That's how you want to shoot against the fish stick. Basically, you don't want to shoot directly into the circle because then your shot can go through the gap between the little. Are they small fry? Do they count as small fry? The little guys. You know what I mean. Anyways, you want to fire straight into, like, think the edge of the circle because that way they'll just run into your shots. It's a bit different for blasters, of course, but that's how you want to handle them with like shooters and spotlings. Yeah, exactly, Mick. And sometimes you'll have a weapon that needs to climb for other reasons, like your other weapons are busy with other things. And you typically don't want to climb for the eggs either, because you can just wait for a snatcher to fly over and pick them up, and then you kill the snatcher and the eggs drop. Um. So, anyways, like again, it has a painting mode. It paints a solid amount with Flipper. And it has enough mobility to deal with um Salmon lids. Can struggle a bit versus lessers, but it's like decent enough. Now the ink efficiency really hurts for Big Shot. So I think like a 2. What do I have Splattershot Pro as? A 2. Maybe it needs a 1.5. I mean, the damage overall is about equal with Splat Pro for the whole ink tank. So I guess it's fine to keep it as a 2. Okay. Finally away from the shooters. Carbon roller. Very, very weird weapon. Mm. Man, I am tired already. And it's been 2.5 hours of talking. I really might need to do another stream. Still have like over half the weapons. I'll try to get through rollers and brushes and see how I'm feeling. And might end up ending it off there. Yeah, it takes more than half a tank for Squeezer. They are definitely damage sponges, and Squeezer is very inefficient. Okay. Honestly, I'm gonna skip Carbon Roller, because I feel like it's kind of a weird roller to do first. So I'll do it after the other rollers. So Splat Roller and Flingza are very similar DPS wise, and they're both very good for lessers with their horizontal flick because of how their ink spreads. But right now we're not talking about lessers, we're talking about stingers. And they're not great for stingers. There is a trick that is very precise, but with horizontal flicks, if you aim in the correct spot, you can knock out two pots at once, which does help a lot, but it is difficult to do. And they are still fairly slow, and much slower if you cannot do that. However, they are very good at clearing lessers, which it does matter for stingers. They're a very good weapon to have with you, but they're not the type of weapon that wants to go out and solo stingers. Hmm. Dynamo is clearly a 1 star for stingers. So I think the other rollers we can give a 1.5. Tier list based on competent or average player. I'd say competent or even like high level player. I am including the ease of use chart, though I haven't really filled it out yet. So that kind of tells you like, okay, if it's harder to use, then you're probably not going to be like making perfect, well, use of it. So it's like Dynamo probably also might get like a 1 or a 2 star. So it kind of just tells you like, okay, for an inexperienced player, they're probably not going to be like maximizing the efficiency of the weapon. Oh yeah, E-Leader is an incredible weapon. Okay. Um so yeah. Rollers kind of suck for stingers, just due to how the weapons work. Wish they changed how they interacted. But yeah. There may be a few tricks with Dynamo. I have seen a few Twitter clips where you can roll into the stinger pots, but it's kind of dependent on terrain. So I'm not going to be putting that into consideration for now. And basically, you should never go out for a stinger alone as Dynamo. Don't do it. Anyways, back to the rollers. Splat Roller is not great for steelheads. The vertical flick is solid enough, but you need at least two, which can be somewhat difficult from ground level. It definitely becomes a lot easier if you have something higher up to stand on, though. But honestly, put it at a 1.5. I actually have carbon at 1.5. I feel like if anything, carbon might need to go to a 1. But I also have ink brush at 1. And I also have aerospray as 1. Aerospray needs to go up. Carbon is better than ink brush, but is it significantly better than ink brush for steelheads? What should be slightly lower than Luna, James? So I'm thinking maybe I put Splat Roller up to 2, slightly lower than Luna. Yeah, and Luna's 2.5. So I think that's fair. I think Carbon is significantly, or significant enough. It's slightly above Ink Brush. It still sucks for steelheads. But ink brush is unusable without a height advantage. Okay. Ink brush did get damage buffed, so it's actually like pretty easy to get the one cycle now. In Splatoon 2, I would give ink brush like a negative star against Steelhead. It was actually so trash. Like you can one cycle, but you need a or I'm not sure if you needed the bomb combo, but it was at least close to needing the bomb combo, which is really sad for a weapon that has no range. Anyways, yeah, Inkbrush got buffed to 36 damage per flick. I believe it was 32 before. Rapid does not need the bomb combo, but you need to fire a shot slightly before the steelhead is vulnerable to get an indirect. The timing is not too hard once you learn how to do it, but you need to be at a range. It was doable with Rapid Pro in a oh yeah, Rapid can triple direct as well. It's very tight. Um yeah. Like for reference, the combo was doable with Rapid Pro in Splat 2, but now it's not necessary anymore because Rapid Pro got buffed. But Rapid didn't, sadly for it. Okay. Now Flingsa is where the rollers get good for Steelhead and Dynamo as well. And so a vertical flick takes 72 frames, so a bit longer than a second. For Dynamo, it's 85 frames. Dynamo has a bit longer range as a trade-off though. So you don't want the steelhead to be at max range for the rollers, but because then it won't do enough damage. Thanks, Mick, for the pluses. But it's still, if you're close enough, it's very easy to one hit KO. Yeah, high mix cat. Okay. So yeah, I think Fling's I think both of them can get a solid 4 star for Steelhead. Average salmon run stream. Spreadsheets. Yeah, maybe I should have changed it to just talking, but we're just talking about Splatoon 3. Yeah, Dynamo horizontal flick actually is not like I think it would have been a fine buff because the damage isn't super consistent and it's just again, it's single target DPS, so it's gonna look bad for a weapon that hits multiple things at once, but still 182 is really trash and it uses so much ink. You have to roll with Dynamo to make it a good weapon. It was the cats. Let's go. Okay. Dynamo horizontal flicks are also very good for Drizzler torpedoes. The problem is how long they take. And you pretty much have to know a torpedo is coming to get it with a vertical flick, even though the range is so much better. Oh yeah, Dapples were super good. They got nerfed. They're still super good, but just not quite as ridiculous. But yeah, this is based off of Mistwalker's original list for Splat 2. Okay, so for torpedoes, I think Dynamo can get like a 2.5 star, I think might be reasonable. Because, like, it's solid, but you have to know. Your awareness has to be super good. Um, and then Flingza is a bit better. Just because generally, the horizontal flicks with roller are super good for close range torpedoes. Like, they're really good for reflex. And then with the Flingza long range, you can also hit them from a bit farther away with the vertical flick. I think it's like a 3 star. And then, hmm, I kind of want to give Splat Roller a 3 star as well. Anything Flingza maybe deserves to go up. The only problem is how long the vertical flick takes. Maybe, yeah. I think these do deserve to go up to 4 star, to be honest. In retrospect, Prim was right. Just relative to the other stuff, they are more solid. Or maybe I'm overranking the rollers. Or maybe it's all subjective and nothing matters. Nah. Okay. I think Dynamo is just in such a weird spot is the problem. Is it's honestly like the torpedo reflex are very easy, but with how slow they are, it's like too big of a commitment to be like, oh yeah, this weapon is great for dealing with torpedoes. Maybe Flingsley deserves to go up higher. I don't know. Carbon roller, it's fine. It's not great. The short range sucks, but it's quick at least. I gave Sploosha 2. I don't know. The carbon vertical flick is very fast and also good for it. And it's longer range. Although, again, you can't hit. You have to hit it closer than the max range to get the reflect in one hit. But I think 2 is fine. And honestly, like maybe these deserve to go up a half star, if anything. But for now, I'm leaving it. For there's some tech that is difficult to use. They made it a lot harder to roll the Drizzler in Splatoon 3. But then, well, I wouldn't say a lot harder, it's just different. But you can still get some solid damage on them. So, with Carbon, it's not really useful. Sorry, Carbon. But for the other ones, hmm, I think Dynamo can honestly get a 4.5, and the others get 4s. And then Carbon gets like a 2.5 or something. Or honestly, a 2. Uh, poor carbon. Does it deserve a 2.5? I don't know. 310 is like not great for single target DPS. I'm gonna put these up. Okay. Carbon roller versus stingers. It's more usable. I'm gonna put these higher just because of the double pot trick, and then like carbon gets a. Honestly, does carbon even? Because carbon, the double pot trick is nearly impossible, but horizontal flicks twice a second versus like it's not that much faster. Like honestly, it still sucks. Arguably worse versus Stinger. I don't know. We can keep it at 2. I really wish they buffed carbon. Okay, paint wise, we're skipping fish sticks for now. We'll go back to it right after. Um, they're all pretty solid at painting. Like just a few horizontal flicks, and you paint the zone. I don't know. I feel like I might knock down Dynamo a little bit just because of the mobility, and it can struggle with like if you get trapped in the ink from the flipper flopper, or if there's other stuff going on. Also, because of the terrible ink efficiency that H-Fix use. I might actually come back to this and change it though, because I think there's some interesting things you can do with rolling the flipper flopper when it's coming out of the ink. But for now, I'm going to ignore that. But keep in mind, Dynamo is a very silly weapon, and there may be new tech on the horizon for it. But for now, I think 2, 2.5 is what I'm feeling. I think the mobility brings it down to a 2. Better private battles. Yeah, I want to be able to practice salmon run stuff solo and all that. I want a seed picker, a wave chooser, tier list for the cutest salmons. Maybe next time. Um yeah, all the other rollers are pretty solid for flipper. For fish stick, they mostly need to climb. If you have a height advantage, you can horizontal flick, and Dynamo can do it from the ground. So Dynamo has an advantage in that regard, but it has a disadvantage in that horizontal flicks are expensive as shit, and its mobility is really bad. So it's kind of a big commitment to deal with the fish sticks as Dynamo. But you can do it. Again, it was just like gonna be a 2 or so though. Carbon roller, you kind of have to climb and then horizontal flick. And same with others, that's kind of the best way, unless you have height. It's like they're fine. I might give them all 2.5s. Yeah, I think that's reasonable with what I'm going up with up here. They could drop, honestly. It's like they're usable, it just takes time. Like, they're typically not going to be the best weapon in the rotation for dealing with fish sticks. Do you think it's better or worse, Prim? It's good for with horizontal flicks, but the ink efficiency is so bad. Much better. Mm, I could see it. Out of them, all of them, I could see it. My main problem is with Dynamo Roller's terrible ink efficiency and mobility. Is it's a big commitment, and if there's other stuff around, it can be very rough. I think, to be honest, I have not played enough Dynamo, though, in this game to be confident in my rating. Splat and Flings at 3. I think that's also reasonable because they don't always have to climb the fish stick, whereas Carbon will. The Carbon will typically be able to do it faster. Carbon worse than Dynamo, you say? I think that's fair as well. Yeah, it's a weird situation where it's like the most reliable way is going to be to climb the fish stick, but it takes more time. And there's like certain spots on Hydroplant and um Hydroplant and Sockeye especially where there's like really good height advantages you can get on the fish sticks where horizontal flicks become like really good and quick. But it again, it's like terrain dependent. It's okay because it shouldn't be too far away from basket, so it's a decent time filler. Yeah, it's like it might be the best thing for Dynamo to be doing at that moment, considering like it depends on what bosses are active and like where on the map they're active. I think my difficulty with rating it comes from like rollers are more dependent on like context than shooters. Like shooters are more adaptable to like, oh, it can just go up and shoot them down or whatever. Whereas rollers, it's like, okay, are there bosses around? Are there lessers around? What's the terrain like? Do I have enough height to H flick without climbing it? I don't know. There's a lot to consider. And I mean, like, height matters for certain shooters too. But, hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I do agree with putting carbon down, at the very least. And can put Dynamo here at least. Right now I have Junior at 3. What do you feel like that How do you feel about that with the comparison between junior and roller? Honestly, I'm fine with getting stuck on this particular nuance because I've decided I'm not going to do the whole sheet in one stream because I've been going almost 3 hours and I'm not good at talking this long. You think roller is barely worse than junior, Mick? Yeah, to be honest, stuff like this is tough to compare because, like most things in this game, it's going to be very context dependent, and it's like the same thing with tier lists where it's like okay, it's very rare where it's like you have a weapon. There's just like okay, this weapon is better than this weapon because like they're good at different things. So it depends on like the weapon comp and all that. So it's kind of hard to just say like straight up one is better than the other unless they're like the same type of weapon. Yeah, I agree with that, Prim. Rollers especially are like super weird. It's also like yeah, you can see if you want to put a look at the DPS. I put notes like okay, I didn't change this correctly. But basically, like, obviously the 182 DPS is, like, not indicative of what Dynamo can do, but the 3000 isn't really either, because that's theoretical maximum for, like, infinite roll damage combo, which just, like, isn't going to be feasible 99% of the time. It's like, you can do it on Goldies. That's it. You tasked me to speedrun a fish to kill, I'd take Junior over any of the rollers. I think that's fair, Mick, but it also, like, depends. Like, I think, I don't know. You kind of have to remove context to, like, make things simple enough to, like, make a decision on it. But it's like, okay, is it just flat terrain? There's a fish stick in front of you. In that context, like, I think Dynamo would still be the one to speedrun it the quickest. Just because you can hit it from the ground with horizontal flicks. But, like, Junior's gonna do it safely and more consistently. And again, also that imaginary scenario is never going to happen in the actual game. I think this is why I love Salmon Run. It's just there's so many things you can think about. It's really fucking complex. And now we get to the roller 5-star category. Except Carbon. Yeah. These two bosses, roller rollers are very nice for. Yeah, carbon fake roller. Carbon doesn't count. But big shot. All these three get 5 stars because they kill it really, really quickly. Reliability is so important in a mode where a single mistake can doom the shift. I think that also depends on context, like everything. I should just make a tier list and it just says depends on context. Cause like reliability is super important for freelance, but if you have a reliable squad that's like, okay, yeah, you can rely on the Dynamo to know if they can get away with killing a fish stick in this scenario or not, or something like that. Or you can rely on having someone just support while the Dynamo kills the fish stick. But yeah, we can move on for now. But yeah, 5 stars for obvious reasons. Dynamo, with the caveat, honestly, most weapons in general kind of want to avoid going out for a big shot while there's spawns from that direction. Weapons like Sploosh can get away with it, but yeah, the other rollers are a bit more reliable for handling things by themselves. But like Dynamo, yeah, honestly, I think I'll keep them all at 5 stars. But if I had to knock one down, it would be Dynamo, just because like it can struggle by itself, and like the extra roll DPS doesn't matter that much when you can easily kill a big shot with any of the rollers before it gets to the cannon. But it's still so good, and obviously the extra roll DPS does have its upsides for clearing Cohawks. And if when you get to the cannon, the big shot is moving away or in the process of firing the shot, it's easier to still get the kill with Dynamo. So there's ups and downs. Um, Rollers also very good for lids because you can roll in and out of the lid safely. Very good for clearing lessers. And then you just jump on top, you know. Honestly, yeah, this is 5 stars for Dynamo as well. Cause like the best thing about Dynamo, other than Nightwaves, is that lessers are not going to do anything to you, except for in very specific circumstances. Like you might get janked or sneak attacked by a small fry, or like if you don't have ink, obviously. So you're gonna have to play around the bad ink efficiency. But like if you do it correctly, you're gonna just be able to roll into the Salmon lid's attack zone and then roll out and then kill it. The other two rollers still very very good. I wouldn't suggest rolling quite as much because the way Slam and Lids work are still pretty jank, and like if you get a Coax spawned on your head, you could then get bumped in the horizontal roll and like get knocked further into the lid and get crushed. So have to be careful of that. But they're still very, very, very good for clearing lessers. So and just killing it in general. So I'm thinking like a solid 4 star for both. And then Carbon, you have to be the most careful of lessers. But it's like its mobility is still pretty solid, so it's like pretty decent at triggering the slam and lid attack. So I think like a 3.5 is fair. And then for big shot, You can still handle it pretty decently, it's just not nearly as good as the other rollers. Like, basically half as much roll DPS on the big shot. But H flicks from Carbon are still good, still solid for handling lessers that may be spawning around the big shot. And the damage is like still pretty solid. So it's like not a terrible weapon, but it's not gonna be handling them on their own with other spawns. But I think like a 3.5 is pretty reasonable. Ink brush, ink brush, ink brush. Not quite the worst weapon in the game anymore. Probably, because of the damage buff. I'm not sure how much focus is on this side of the sheet. I haven't really gone into much explanation on it, but I do want to highlight that I only have ink brush mobility on 4.5 stars. And I think there's an argument for 5, but I think there's an argument for 4. But the reason for this is just, well, one, paint, and two, like a lot of people assume like ink brush is just best mobility because it has the fast roll. But you get bumped by lessers, and there's not as much adaptability as something like a sploosh. So that's my reasoning behind the mobility. Like sploosh, you can just dart wherever you want and shred lessers in your way or go around them. Ink brush, you get a bad bump and you die. So you have to be a lot more careful with how you're moving with it. The one thing I will give it though, and I think this is the argument for 5 stars, is rolling on grates is incredibly useful. But on to the boss matchups. Yeah, again, the reason I have all the shooters' mobility is so high is because you can shoot very quickly to paint. It's like main strafing and all that is the term, where basically, I don't know, you can consistently paint your feet and move very quickly. Whereas for other weapon classes, it's an alternation between paint, move, paint, move. For shooters, that alternating is very, very quick. So, with all that being said, Inkbrush can still do a good job at getting out to the stingers. With its added DPS, it can clear lessers better. In general, that's the thing Inkbrush is best at, is um, using its multi-hits to clear lessers. And it has a pretty solid stinger kill time basis. Like it kills them pretty quickly. So I think 3 stars. For Drizzler torpedoes, if you're in range, it's very quick at knocking them down. The problem is you have really, really short range. So probably giving it the same as Sploosh is fair. Could see an argument for 1.5 stars, but either way. It has slightly better single target DPS than Jet Squelcher, but not a big enough difference. So probably keep it. Shouldn't have more than carbon for Drizzler. Yeah. Or we can give it 2 stars because again the multi hits can help like clear lessers or stall other things. I feel like a fairly common situation is like if you have a scrapper on you that may be attacking while you're trying to kill a drizzler. Like ink brush, you can just kill the drizzler and the shots will also hit and stop the scrapper. For torpedo, yeah. Yeah, I think having ink brush the same as carbon for both of those is pretty reasonable. Or if anything, carbon should maybe be above. It might be good to knock it down to 1.5. Yeah, I don't know. Fish sticks. You're absolutely gonna have to climb the fish stick. Unless it's like a very specific location with height. Um, Once you're up, it does have a very quick kill on the fish stick. So, and I feel like it's also it paints well enough, and you can use the squid surge to get up. So I think again, same as carbon, or it could even be considered slightly better, to be honest, than carbon. Like if I feel like if you had a race between carbon and ink brush to kill a fish stick, the ink brush would win. I could be wrong. I'm not sure if the difference is significant enough to give it a half star above it. Also, having it same as Dynamo feels weird, so maybe I'll just keep it the same. Also, just thinking about Dynamo more, or maybe I'm just being moody, but I think just like having the possibility of killing it from the ground, I like moving it up a little. Yeah, climbing the stick does suck with Thing Brush. Uh, Inkbrush is very solid at painting. Definitely got to give it that. It's very good at painting for the fish stick. I think, honestly, like a 4.5. I think that's fairly deserved. And again, its mobility is solid. You have to be careful with it, but it's solid. So you can be pretty decent about getting in and out of lids. Also, I don't know exactly how lid spawning works, but there's a lot of times where lids will like not be spawning enemies anymore. And in those cases, it's arguably the best weapon for moving through lids because you can just roll right under them and continue. Like you don't have to start shooting again with like sploosh or something. You can just roll under them. So I think that is like something to keep in mind. You just have to be careful about it. But that is an advantage that Inkbrush has when dealing with lids. Also, again, it is good at clearing lessers, which is very important for dealing with the lids. I think 4 stars sounds about right. And then big shots. What about big shots? Single target DPS, not great. It can handle getting out to big shots fairly quickly. Can handle lessers fairly decently. Another thing to consider is the ink efficiency is not great, which is going to be important for dealing with a lot of lessers and dealing with big shot. Hmm. H3 at 3. I'm thinking like 2.5 for big shots. Yeah, similar to Clash sounds about right. It's like Clash has worse single target for the big shot itself, but it's better at managing lessers and has better ink efficiency. All right. I think I'll end it off here. My voice is getting tired, and it's been over 3 hours. But I just want to say I appreciate everyone showing up. I appreciate everyone discussing stuff in the chat with me. Made this a lot of fun. It'd be very, very boring if I was just talking about this to myself. So, yeah, I think I'm going to. I hope this like doesn't dox me somehow, but it should be fine. If I just make a link anyone can view, and I'll just post it in here. So if you want to check out the sheet, obviously it's not complete yet. I'm still going to be. I don't think I will do any more of the boss matchups. I'll do another stream of this. And then I will probably make some edits to this section on my own time, just with like how I'm displaying like ink usage and stuff. Yeah, I don't know, Mick. I think it depends a lot. Like, I think it helped that like I was announcing it on Twitter and stuff, and I have a decent amount of followers, so I think that definitely helps. And also like followers on Twitch, but it's like this stream was definitely above my average. Like just like Salmon run stream where I'm not talking and just doing gameplay. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. Like, I don't know. I would definitely show up if you did something and I could uh, make it during that time. So I think there's only one way to find out. I think it would be cool if you did try it, and like I definitely boost you on like Twitter and stuff, and like try to help spread word about it. But yeah, I think people would be interested in hearing your thoughts. Oh yeah, it's a ton. Like there's a ton of subjectivity, especially when I'm just assigning what's the word for it? I can't think of the word, but I'm just assigning ratings that are like it's like, oh, this is a 3.5, this is a 5 star. It's like there's no objective quality that makes it a 5 star. It's just like trying to take the data as I can and like valuing what I value and try to make an explanation or for an argument for like why I think highly of this weapon in this circumstance. So I guess like the point is the information, not the star rating at the end of the day. And I'm gonna try to like go through and add like there's like notes and stuff. I'm gonna try to go through and add notes for stuff when I have time. But yeah, I guess the point is the discussion at the end of the day. There is some information that can be gleaned of like, oh, this weapon is good for fish sticks or whatever, but it's like it doesn't necessarily convey why unless you were here for the stream. But yeah, stuff like this is difficult because it's a really, really complicated game and there's a lot of things to consider, but that's part of what makes it fun. But yeah, with that said, I guess I'll find somebody to raid. Mm-mm. Who is active right now? God, I don't know how Twitch works. I'm stuck in the like creator mode on the app. Someone tell me who to raid. I can't see who's live. It's funny. Great stuff so far. Thank you, Snaku. And yeah, thanks for stopping by and chatting about the weapons, Mick, and everyone else. Okay, I found the real Twitch. Oh, perfect. Mina's live. She had stopped by here earlier. Alright. Well, I don't know when I will do another stream to try to finish the rest of the sheet, but I do plan on doing it sometime, so I just like look out for if you see a notif for it, or I'll be announcing it on Twitter. And yeah, thank you everyone for stopping by.